How did the British take control of India? Imagine a country so wealthy that traders from Europe were desperate to reach it. India was famous for its textiles, spices, silk, diamonds, and massive trade networks. Yet, somehow, a foreign trading company arrived and eventually became one of the most powerful forces in India. So, how did the British take control of India? The story begins in 1600. Queen Elizabeth I granted the East India Company permission to trade in the East. At first, the British were not rulers. They were simply merchants. They arrived by ship, established trading posts, and asked Indian rulers for permission to conduct business. They built trading centers in places like Surat, Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. But then India's political situation began to change. The Mughal Empire weakened, and regional powers competed with each other for influence. The British saw an opportunity. Instead of only trading, the East India Company began building its own army. It had soldiers, forts, cannons, ships, and money. And soon, the company was no longer behaving like an ordinary business. Then came the turning point. The Battle of Plassey, 1757. Bengal was one of the richest regions in India. Its ruler, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, opposed the growing power of the East India Company. Robert Clive led the British forces. But the British didn't depend only on weapons. They made secret agreements with powerful figures in the Nawab's camp, including Mir Jafar. When the battle began, much of Siraj's army failed to fight effectively. The British won, and that victory gave the East India Company enormous political influence in Bengal. But the company wanted more. In 1764, it won the Battle of Buxar, defeating the combined forces of Bengal, Awadh, and the Mughal emperor. Then, in 1765, the company gained the right to collect revenue in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. Think about the transformation. A company that came to sell goods was now collecting taxes from millions of people. That revenue helped finance its army and further expansion. From there, British control spread, sometimes through war, sometimes through treaties, and sometimes by taking advantage of conflicts between Indian rulers. Under the subsidiary alliance, many Indian rulers had to accept British troops and British influence. Later, the doctrine of lapse was used to annex several states under British rule, but Indians resisted. Tipu Sultan fought the British in Mysore. The Marathas challenged British expansion. The Sikh Empire also remained a powerful opponent for years. Then came 1857. A massive uprising began among Indian soldiers and spread across several regions. Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Jhansi, and other places became centers of resistance. Rani Lakshmi Bai, Tantia Tope, Nana Sahib, and Bahadur Shah Zafar became important symbols of the uprising. But the rebellion was eventually defeated, and something changed after that. In 1858, the East India Company's rule ended. India was placed directly under the British crown. So, did the British conquer India simply because they were stronger? The answer is more complicated. British military organization, money, naval power, and political strategy were extremely important. But political divisions among Indian powers also gave the company opportunities. The British didn't conquer India in one day. They expanded step by step, first through trade, then through military power, then through political influence, and finally through direct rule. And that is perhaps the most surprising part of the story. The British entered India as merchants, but gradually became rulers. Yet the story did not end there. The same India that was brought under British control eventually built a powerful independence movement. After decades of struggle, India became independent in 1947. The lesson is simple. A country can have enormous wealth and resources, but without political unity and strong institutions, outside powers can exploit its divisions. The British did not simply find a weak India. They found a divided political landscape and learned how to use those divisions to build power.